This is the Audi SQ7, and apart from the extra large alloys, it looks pretty similar to the regular Q7, which is to say it looks pretty similar to every other Audi on the road. So if you're after an SUV to really stand out from the crowd and make a bit of a scene, then this maybe isn't the car for you. But if you want to get around town in one of the most luxurious and technically advanced SUVs on the market, then this very much could be the car for you. I reviewed the regular Q7 last year, so if you want to have a look at that, click the link and then come back here to find out about the SQ7 and see how it differs. Up the front of the SQ7, we've got the same good-looking headlight clusters that we get in the regular Q7, and Audi really do these better than just about anybody else. They put on a little dance for you whenever you get in or out of the car. It's a nice little show worth looking back for. The SQ7 scores 22-inch alloys, which I think look a real step up from the regular Q7's wheels. The back of the SQ7 looks pretty much the same as the regular Q7, although we do have 4 huge exhausts down there which allow this engine's burbly, raspy noise to be heard by everybody in the world. In the boot, there's 295 litres of room with all 3 rows of seating up. Knock the first ones down, you get 770 litres of space, and with both rows down, there's a massive 1,955 litres of cargo space. Lowering and raising the seats is dead easy, of course, because we've got buttons in the back that help you do that, and you can even raise and lower the car's air suspension to improve accessibility. The biggest difference between this car and the regular Q7 is the engine. In place of a 6-cylinder petrol, here we've got a turbocharged diesel V8 that outputs 320 kilowatts of power and 900 newton meters of torque, and can shoot this car from 0 to 100 in just 4.8 seconds. Now, this is a 2.5-ton SUV. That's very impressive. In fact, it's the same engine that you find in this car's slightly smaller brother, the SQ8. Time to feel how this car goes about using its 900 newton meters of torque in a 0 to 100 dash. So, here we go. Oh, that's good. And this engine is incredibly efficient as well. The average fuel consumption is just 7.6 litres per 100 kilometres. That's better than some 4-cylinder cars. That beautiful sounding V8 transmits its power to all 4 wheels with Audi's Quattro drive system through an 8-speed Tiptronic transmission that is incredibly smooth. The interior of the SQ7, as you'd expect, is fantastic. We've got leather up on top here with stitching, piano black through the middle, these gorgeous touch screens, and the Valcona leather on the seats is really soft, and they're very supportive and very comfortable. What I thought I'd do for this review though is maybe take a little bit of a deeper dive into Audi's MMI system, because there are just so many features on here and so much functionality that I bet even most Audi owners don't know exists. Actually, one thing I am going to do before we do a deep dive into the system is actually wipe down the fingerprints, because unfortunately this beautiful piano black finish is a magnet for them. And like all Audis, of course, we get our branded Audi cleaning rag. Starting with the home screen, we have the radio. Well, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. There is AM, FM and digital. The native navigation system uses Google Maps, and it is about one of the best on the market. It is really, really good with this satellite imagery. You can scroll around to whatever it is that you want to look for. There's a few different display options here, including 2D, 2D North if you want to be facing north, 3D maps, which is my personal favorite. Very easy to enter an address. You can search by car park, restaurant, petrol station, landmarks, things like that. You can also write in your destination on the lower screen here. So if you need to find petrol in a hurry, you can just write in petrol station and it searches for the nearest ones. This system that Audi uses isn't quite as good as Siri in the speaking department, but it has managed to find petrol stations for me nearby really, really quickly. Apple CarPlay, well, that's pretty self-explanatory. Wireless Apple CarPlay in this car, so it is really easy to access that and connect it up when you first get into a new Audi. Going back to the home screen here, the car menu is next. Now we have a number of different drive modes available in this car: efficiency, comfort, auto, Dynamic, and Individual, which lets you select a custom drive mode, so you can change the drive system from efficient, balanced or dynamic. Same goes for the suspension, steering, engine sound, and you can pick whether or not you want to have the engine in dynamic or suspension in dynamic. For me, I prefer the steering in comfortable because it's a little easier to handle. And the engine sound, well, you have to have that pronounced, because otherwise how will the world know that you have a glorious V8 up front? Back to the car menu, and the car details screen shows you the car tilt angle display, also your elevation, your direction you're heading on your compass, also your longitude and latitude. Seat controls allows you to adjust the bolsters to hold you in a little more firmly. You can also move the lower cushion. And then we have the car massage controls, and there's a few different massage programs here: wave, pulse, stretch, rest, shoulder activation, revitalization, and it's actually really nice and firm, which is something that's very important to me, although you can adjust the intensity if it's a bit too strong for you. We'll just stop that there because it's a bit weird doing it while I'm talking. The heated and ventilated seats are also controlled from here, and you can adjust where the heating and ventilation comes from, whether you want it down low or up high. Climate control, well, that's pretty self-explanatory as well. There's also the scent control, which pumps a really nice fresh scent into the car and keeps it smelling nice and clean. The rear aircon controls can also be controlled from here, as there is 4-zone climate control in this car. My favourite, and frankly my kids' favourite feature too, is the interior background lighting that can be changed to a multitude of preset colour patterns, or you can design your own custom colour layout. Going back to the home menu now, moving on to the settings menu. That was just the car menu before. Now we're in the settings menu. There's a lot to go through. In general, date and time, that kind of thing, stuff for the MMI system, you don't really need to go into that all that often. Display and brightness, that is one that you probably will go into. Cockpit dimming, do you want it brighter or darker? The head-up display, you can change the height and the angle and the brightness and the rotation of it. The virtual cockpit screen, there are two basic different configurations for that. The S Performance version, which I like, and you can configure what dials appear on that screen, and then the regular Sport mode, which is a little more traditional with dials, and you can control whether or not you want full screen maps or larger dials or smaller dials. And again, you can also change what extra dials appear, things like driving time, average distance, the date, consumption display, that kind of thing. The sound system, now this car has 23 speakers no less. It's been optioned with the Bang & Olufsen premium sound system, which absolutely sounds amazing. But things like treble, bass, balance, fader, subwoofer, the focus, whether you want it the front, the rear, the middle, that kind of thing, you can adjust all of that there in the sound settings. And I really like these little speakers that pop up out of the dashboard when you turn the car on. Announcements and sounds, you can control those from here.
Volume of spoken cues.
That is way too loud.
Volume of spoken cues.
Much better, thank you. The greeting sound when you first get into the car. System maintenance will allow you to automatically update the online maps with Google, which is a really good thing to do with, road changes, road closures, that kind of thing. Software update can also be controlled from here, and if you want to do a factory reset, that's the place to do it from. The user, you can set up personal profiles for each individual driver. The rest of the settings menu is home to a lot of features you won't often need to touch, like settings for the phone, navigation, contacts, and data management. Back to the main menu, and the help button contains the setup wizard, which is great for when you first get this car, setting up all of the basic functions like the language and number of users, that kind of thing. The weather is great. There is a full weather app on here which will show you local weather information. It can actually also read the weather out to you.
Temperatures will be between 16 degrees Celsius and 21 degrees Celsius on Sunday.
The lower console screen primarily handles the climate control, but it does have some other functions as well. These buttons across the top here handle the auto on-off for the engine idle control, hill descent control, a little shortcut button to some extra shortcut buttons that you can set up. Underneath that is the main climate control function, and there's dual zone climate control up the front here, so the driver and the passenger can either have them in sync or control their own temperature just by sliding their finger up and down here or pushing plus or minus. The seat buttons, push those, and that opens up a shortcut to the seat menu that we saw before, so you can adjust the position of the seat, also control the heating and cooling, as well as the massage function. And there's an additional row of shortcut buttons down the bottom here as well for the climate control and the seat functions too. Just at the bottom of the screen is yet another row of haptic touch buttons that act as shortcuts for various functions, like the drive mode select button. That's probably the main one that you would use for that. The stability control and the hazard lights, and plus a couple more air conditioning shortcut buttons there. Volume control for the sound system, and then we have the parking control button, which actually allows you to take full control of the cameras on the outside of the car. But the really cool part is when you hit the 3D button here and you get a 3D view of the car, which you can just move around with your finger. It's like there's a 3D camera outside of the car, only it's not there. It's sort of putting all of the images it's collecting from the various cameras outside the car and stitching them together to create a 3D model. And that pretty well wraps up all the main functions of the two center console screens here in the Audi SQ7. The rest of the cockpit is absolutely fantastic. It's very comfortable. The Valcona leather here on the seats is actually pretty soft and very durable. And this armrest here just feels fantastic. And I really love all of the carbon fiber throughout the cabin here. It just looks so good, especially when the sun hits it. The steering wheel feels great. It's got a nice leather wrap and stitching with a flat bottom. It feels really good when you're taking this car around corners. Plenty of headroom here. I'm nowhere near the ceiling, which is good. And of course, when you look up, you see that fantastic view through the panoramic sunroof. The front two seats have full electric adjustment in just about every direction you can imagine, so finding a comfortable seating position is actually really easy in this car. And if you're getting a little bit tight, of course, put on the massage function, put on the heating or the cooling, whatever takes your fancy, and enjoy the ride. This car really is the ultimate tourer. Back seat of the SQ7, and this is magnificent. It is so comfortable back here, nowhere near the seat in front of me, and it's in my seating position. I'm 190 centimeters tall, so tall, and I'm just not even close to touching the seat in front of me. Plenty of foot room too. Two more zones of climate control back here for the rear seat passengers, so I can control my own individual temperature, fan speed, the direction of the air, and these seats are heated as well. Two USBs underneath that, a 12-volt outlet. We've got more carbon fiber here on the doors, more Alcantara leather on the armrest, a ashtray there if you want to light up. Don't know why you would. And a little personal light here that doesn't want to switch on right now. There we go. Starting at just over $160,000 and about $30K more for how you see it here, the Audi SQ7 is the very pinnacle of luxury SUVs, and it can handle just about anything you throw at it, short of driving up the side of a mountain. But do you really need to spend that much money for that sort of outcome? Just putting it out there, the Genesis GV80, for example, carries just as many people, it's just as comfortable, the technology is pretty much on par with this car. Yeah, it's a little bit slower. It's about half a second slower to 100 k's per hour than the SQ7, but it also only costs about half as much. And there's less of them on the road, so they are a little bit more eye-catching. Just something to think about.